going on YouTube? Welcome back to Kawa Architecture. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 ways I survived and even thrived in architecture school that can help you become a better student, thinker, and designer. But first, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like. I come out with architecture content every week, and you're not going to want to miss it. Without further ado, let's begin. So the 5 ways I survived and even thrived in architecture school mainly comes down to time management. So being more efficient with your time and effective. Not going down rabbit holes and not wasting time is key. And by having better time management, you get further along on tasks that you couldn't have if you waited to the last minute. Okay, so number 1 is you are going to want to prioritize studio first. When you get out of school, what are you going to have to show for it other than the degree? What are you going to have to show for it? That's right. It's going to be the projects you worked on in studio. And typically, when you graduate, you're going to want to get a job. And to do that, you're going to need to show experience in project work, hence your studio work. So why wouldn't you want to spend more time on your studio work than other courses that you're not going to actually use in the real world? That doesn't make sense to me. So that's why you're going to want to prioritize studio first and put your other courses second. An easy way to do this is to schedule your studio time. Have a set, devoted schedule to just accomplishing studio tasks throughout the week and nothing else. This method is similar to when you're studying for the A.R.Es. Also, if you want to know more tips and tricks on how to attack the A.R.Es, I made a video on 9 easy steps to effectively passing the A.R.Es. It'll be right up here. And I talk about strategies on how I passed my exams in 9 months right after graduate school. Okay, but back to architecture school. Like I said, it's like the A.R.Es, but studio is your priority. Think of it like when you're studying for the exams, that's your priority, and it's similar to the A.R.Es, whereas your 4 other courses in that semester are similar to your day job. So in order for you to excel in studio, you need to keep your day job, so the other 4 courses that you're working on, you can't get F's in your 4 courses but get an A in studio. That's not how it works. You need to still stay on top of your other coursework but still prioritize your studio work. One way that I did this was that I broke my weeks up into studio days and all my other coursework days. So studio was on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In the mornings I worked on design, exploration, and model making, and in the afternoons I had 4 hours of my studio course. So that might have been a review or a work day. But on those days, I only worked on studio and nothing else. Now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, those were my other 4 classes. I tried my hardest to get all of my elective and other non-studio courses on only Tuesday and Thursdays so that I could just devote Monday, Wednesday, Friday to studios. Now, I understand you won't be that fortunate, but you can at least try to create a similar schedule for yourself that works for you where you focus on your studio and your other courses at a different time in the week. This only works if you stay organized and stick to your defined schedule that works for you. So on the second tip, it will be 2 things: to stay organized, but also get ahead on your non-studio courses. On the first day of class, every studio professor should give you a syllabus outlining every single due date of papers, reviews, and exams. And if they don't, ask for them. And now what you're going to want to do is put all of these due dates into your calendar so you know ahead of time and you plan your semester accordingly. So you might be spending a little bit more time on these non-studio courses in certain weeks that you have deadlines, and then you can spend more time on studio when you don't have deadlines. Now this point is all about getting ahead. So when you get an assignment for a paper or an exam, start right away. And for me, it was starting on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would carve out time for my non-studio courses to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays on a paper that I might have had or a test that I needed to study for. And the beauty of this is that you're not going to wait until the last second and be really stressed out, and you can get help from the person grading your assignment or your professor before everyone else is asking for the same help. Your professor or teaching assistant will be more inclined to help you earlier on in the project sequence than the week of or even the day before an assignment's due. I can't tell you how many times I witnessed teaching assistants or professors just shrug at fellow classmates who asked questions about assignments the day before it's due. You do not want that to be you. That is a recipe for a bad grade and, even worse, a bad reputation on your name that could even hurt your studio grades and work. This second point is all about being proactive. If you want to be successful and thrive in architecture school, you are going to need to be proactive. Every student that I witnessed who was successful and got really good GPAs and really good jobs out of architecture school, they were incredibly proactive and typically finished assignments weeks before they were even due. The beauty of finishing a paper 2 weeks ahead is that you can actually give it to your TA TA or the person grading it to look at it, and you can get maybe a preliminary grade or feedback on it where you can then make revisions and get an even better grade on the due date. That's one thing they don't tell you about due dates, is that if you treat it like it's 2 weeks before, you can get preliminary feedback on how you did and have an extra 2 weeks to make it better and get a better grade when it's actually due. One time I finished the paper 2 weeks ahead, so then I scheduled a meeting with the teaching assistant and went over with her, and she actually gave me several ways that I could improve the paper, and they were just small fixes, and my grade easily went from a B to an A. Sometimes it's just as easy as starting it to get that ball rolling. Before you know it, you finish a paper, for example. It may not be your best paper, but at least you're done, and you have something to show the person who's going to be grading it. And typically they can figure out where you're trying to go with it and help you produce the final product for a way better grade than you could have gotten on your own last minute. The third piece of advice I would give you when it comes to your studio projects is that if you're not going to have the most interesting project or the best story about your project, have the most amount of work done. If you don't have the best project, have the most work. It's that easy.
It's that easy.
The thing is, in architecture school, you might actually receive better grade for having a really nice, rigorous progress instead of maybe a hit or miss and lucky final outcome that you may have stumbled upon. There may be students who have better skills than you on graphics or storytelling or model making. Don't let that deter you. Over time, you will build up those skills, but until then, use what you have at your disposal. Do what techniques you do best, and do a lot of it. Show that you're putting in the hours. Show it physically with models, sketches, or written arguments. By showing this to your professor or the person giving you a grade, that person is going to see that you're really working hard and putting in the effort. And by the end of the year, they will give you a lot better grade than had you only did minimal work, even with a final project that was very interesting. Chances are, if you're putting in the most work or producing the most amount of work, your project will actually get pretty interesting and be pretty good in the end. It's all about putting in the work, putting in the effort, and trying to test out as many ideas as you can. It's just like the real world, except you're getting a grade in your architecture school from your professor who sees you day in and day out, either working hard or not working. You're paying for this education, most of the time tens of thousands of dollars. Why wouldn't you want to get the most out of it as you possibly can? If you haven't, check out my video on how much architecture school actually costs. I get it, maybe you're just taking the course to fulfill an elective requirement that you need. But if you are someone who knows that you want to be an architect someday, I would suggest getting the most out of your education as you possibly can. I wish I could go back in hindsight to architecture school. It was so much fun. I got to design really cool projects, work with really fun professors and people, and I was exposed to so many different thinking opportunities on a day-to-day basis. You are paying for it, so why wouldn't you want to get the most out of it? The fourth thing that you're going to want to do to thrive in architecture school is to work fast. Your studio professors want you to come up with ideas and then test them to see if they're valid solutions to your design problem. They want you to test them through drawings, models, or written arguments. The best thing that you can do is work fast and try to get as many ideas out as possible. An idea could just be a sketch. You don't have to go that deep into it initially. The goal is to get your ideas outside of your head and onto a physical piece of paper or model so that you can physically point to something in your review or critique and tell someone, this is what I was thinking at this time, and the relation it is to your idea of your project. I had classmates who had amazing projects. They had amazing work, but once the final review rolled around, they didn't have anything to show for it because they didn't stop designing and they didn't have enough time to solidify their final drawings, and it didn't go very well. And that's not who you want to be. Going back to the first part of this video, I talk about time management. Now, when it comes to studio, that actually has to do with working fast, especially in the early concepting phase. And as the semester progresses, you will get more and more detailed and start building upon previous ideas that you already established. A good way to think about it is that you want to start big and slowly refine it to more detailed aspects of your building or project, instead of coming up with an idea and then scraping it and then starting fresh. That's why it's so important to spend the most amount of time coming up with as many ideas as possible in the front end so that you don't have to do that down the line. That's deadly in your studio project. Even when you're not working, you can still be thinking about your project. Carving out little 5-minute intervals throughout your day where you can think about your project really helps when you actually sit down and start to make and produce artifacts for your project. The last little piece of information that I want to give you to thrive in architecture school is a technique that I came across when I was stuck in my design to trace your computer drawings. Even in your first week, if you are stuck, make a very crude SketchUp model, print it out, and sketch over it. In a way, it grounds your project and your sketches in somewhat of a reality of main geometric shapes, and it makes a way better sketch than if you were to do it freehand. After you get the project brief, you understand the program, you've been to the site, and you've done some explorations, you can start to think about generally where your building might be and what type of views you might want for your final renders on your project. And from that, you work backwards. You think about what maybe that one view might be, and you build that in SketchUp or any type of computer modeling program that you are very quick at. That's the goal, making a very crude but quick computer model that you can print out and then trace or sketch over. It gets you to have really nice sketches and process work without having someone critique the rendering ability that you have in SketchUp. It's all hand-drawn with a little bit of help from geometric shapes from your computer model. In the end, you're going to have a better process because of it, because you're going to have more realistic process sketches than someone who sketched something from memory. I still use it to this day in projects that I work on, and it really helps to put something in your portfolio of a realistic sketch or drawing that you made that is in the same perspective as your final renders. It looks pretty cool to have a sketch that you made and then a final render in the same perspective to show that progression from your initial stages to your final. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the 5 ways I survived and thrived in architecture school. If you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. I come out with architecture videos every single week that you're not going to want to miss. See you in the next video.